Total Screen proudly presents the Weekly Set Podcast with Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig, episode 248, recorded March 30th, 2020. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weekly Set, the official podcast of the Total Screen. I am your host. My name is Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is my partner in crime here at the Total Screen, William Rohrig.
Hello.
So today we are going to be talking about Locke Key and the Magicians. Let's kick things off with Locke Key. We're going to be talking about Season 1. First thing right off the bat, just recently, in the last week, Season 2 was officially confirmed to be in development. So it might be a while, because I don't think it's started even pre-production yet, and when you know about what's going on in the world right now, everything's kind of on hold, so might be a while before we get Season 2, longer than we would have had to have waited otherwise, but a Season 2 is on the way, we'll say that right up front before we even talk about Season 1. So that's good. Now let's jump into Season 1. So whenever we talk about like a full season like this, first thing I always ask is, well, base opinion.
Base opinion, I enjoyed it.
Yes.
I enjoyed it. I was kind of not feeling it at first. My first impression was characters are bland. It's not that scary, but it really ramps up the tension, and you do get more attached to the characters as the show goes along. So it's kind of a slow burn a little bit, but yeah. Oh yeah, it's an enjoyable, I would say surprisingly family-friendly horror romp.
Yeah, it kind of fits into the Stranger Things category.
Yeah.
PG-13 horror, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe not even PG-13, you know, but like, yeah, that kind of family-friendly horror genre. Yeah, I felt pretty much the same. I really enjoyed the series. I think the first couple episodes were a bit of a slog to get through.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there was another bit of a slog kind of somewhere towards the middle as well. But what really got me is when the magic system started really coming into effect.
Right.
When they really started getting into the keys. Not like when they first introduced them, but when they started getting into in particular, the head key.
Yeah.
Once they got into the head key, then it's like all I could do is think about like, oh, what would I do if I had a head key, you know? And it becomes one of those great like what if situations where you're like just running through your head, kind of like, you know, oh, if I had a superpower, what would it be? And you run through it, you know, it's kind of like that, but it's because the head key is so interesting that you just go like, oh, I would do this and this and this, and it really gets your imagination running, and that kind of, I think, is when the series started really connecting.
Right. I wish they explored some of the other keys more.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's a lot of untapped potential there, but there's a lot of stuff that they can do with this. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff they can do in a season 2.
Well, I know, like, in the graphic novel that it's based on, there's supposed to be something like 30 keys or something.
That's what I say. I was going to, say, we don't even know if they found all the keys. You know?
They merged some of them. They made some changes. There's some keys in the show that aren't in the graphic novel, and there's some keys that have been, like, kind of combined. Like, they have that identity key where the person can, like, change the way they look, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like, there's 2 different keys that kind of do those aspects, but there's no key, I think, in the I haven't read the graphic novel. This is just from, you know, hearing other people talking about it. But apparently there's no key that lets you like change your identity, really. Like there's one key that's called the gender key. That lets you change your gender. And I think that's kind of why they made Dodge looks so much like Lucas.
Okay, right.
If you look, those 2 actors are kind of similar looking, you know?
Yeah, they are similar looking, yeah.
Like when Lucas first showed up, I'm like, oh wait, is that Dodge? You know, like what's going on? Because they look so much alike, you know? And I think that's part of why they did that. Because in the original, it was just the gender key. And then there's like I think there's like a race key.
I heard some complaints reading about it from people that said, you know, the gender key kind of, you know, made people uncomfortable, and so it makes sense that they would not use that.
So they just went away from that and the race key. And
those are problematic. I don't. Yeah. I mean, the whole an identity key where you could just change into whoever is a lot better than having like a race key or a gender key. Like, although I will say about the identity key, I feel like it needs some kind of nerf. It's too OP at this point. Like, it needs some kind of nerf where either there's like some kind of tell, that if you look carefully enough, you would notice, or like it has like a finite runtime before you change back into like your original identity. Like,
yeah,
the way it is now, it seems to be like a little too OP.
Well, at least they don't like gain knowledge or anything.
Yeah,
that would have made it, I think, way OP. Like if by changing into the person they had access to their memories and stuff, then it would be like, oh, okay, this is too much, because then they can perfectly disguise themselves. But I think that at least that's not there, so there's still the chance of figuring out that someone's using the identity key because they're not acting correctly, or
right.
So there's just all these interesting keys in this show. So the ones that they added into the show, besides what I just talked about with the race and gender key, that aren't in the book, is, I believe, the mirror key.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't in the graphic novel, which makes sense in a way, because at the end of the thing, I'm like, why are they trying to push her into that black gate that's so dangerous to open? Push her into the fucking mirror.
Yeah.
Use the mirror key. Throw her into the mirror, She said it's a prisoner. Or she said it's a prison for your enemies. That's how she described it, It's like, if you're gonna lock somebody up, it's the perfect place. And it's like, why didn't they do that? Oh, it's not in the graphic novel. It was created for the show, so it doesn't work that way, In order to do the story.
They could have changed. Yeah. One major issue I have is we seem to have a situation where the protagonists are kind of stupid.
Yeah.
So, like they don't plan things out properly, and one of the problems, especially when you get to the end, where like basically the protagonists are kind of dumb and don't plan everything else, but Dodge is like prep time Batman. It's like, really? Like, you see that like at the very end. I was kind of like, the ending's kind of an asshole, because they make Dodge prep time Batman, which kind of makes her a little bit too OP. And it's like, they should in season 2 they should pull that back a little bit, kind of make the kids act smarter, and kind of make the villain not be so super like genius. Like let the villain make some mistakes.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic that they have there between the kind of stupidity of the kids and Dodge just kind of way over planning and having everything so perfectly under control, even when she doesn't seem like she has it perfectly under control.
Right.
So it's kind of, it's like a weird thing. And like you said, the protagonists are pretty dumb. That's like the worst aspect of the show, I think.
Yeah, that's the worst aspect of the show. There's plenty of times where I'm screaming at them, like towards the end when they find the key for the Crown of Shadows, and so Ellie says, "Oh, I know where the crown is. It's in my house that I haven't checked on, where Dodge has been hanging out." So I'll just run over there with the key, and nothing bad will surely happen.
That kind of stuff made it hard to figure out what keys were, because you're like, wait, did she just really leave with all those keys?
Right. Yeah.
Because it wasn't just that key; it was like other keys apparently too. And I'm like, no, they couldn't have done that. Wait, they did, because you used the Shadow Crown. Okay.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, okay, if you run into, I'm kind of like, if I was one of the kids, like if I was Tyler, I would have been like, okay, you can go check it out, but I'm going to hold on to all the keys here just in case you run into Dodge. But they didn't do that. They said, yeah, just take the key and get the crown, and then, like, the next episode, they're staying there waiting. She's like, she's supposed to be back by now. You're like, relax. She went over there to get, she'll be back. No, something happened.
So didn't you forget that you're actually facing an opponent, and that opponent, like, lives in that place that she just went to?
Yeah. It's like, I'm like, they're not registering that something could have happened between. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
But overall, it's a good show.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's more than anything, it's just a fun show. When everything's rolling, when the magic system's in full swing, just like the finding all the keys and all the just random places and figuring out what they do and stuff. That's the real fun of the show. And it's, you know, besides that, it's very Stephen King-esque, but like you said, it falls more into that, like, you know, family-friendly horror area.
Which is funny because my understanding is the graphic novel is more gruesome than this.
Yeah, I've heard that the graphic novel's scarier and more gruesome
and more gruesome. But apparently, Joe Hill said this series is Locke and Key in its ultimate form. So he's apparently very happy scaling those aspects back.
This could be a situation like with his father, where like Stephen King was like very unhappy with like the Shining movie, but really loved the miniseries, and like everybody else had opposite opinions.
Yeah, it could be this is very Stephen King. There's a lot of like all the Stephen King tropes are here. All of them. It takes place
small New England town.
Small New England town. You know, it even has like the kid, the adults who fought a supernatural threat as kids, and then they have to deal with it as adults. Only in this one, like most of them are dead by the time the show starts, but you still have Ellie, you know. Mm-hmm. But it's like that trope is there. You know, that's a big Stephen King thing.
You have like the character from a troubled home that ends up becoming like evil and causes all sorts of stuff.
The character from a troubled home who ends up becoming seduced by the villain, the demon.
Yeah. You have like the caves reminded me of like the sewer paths and like it.
Oh yeah, the sea caves reminded me of it. Yeah, there's a lot of Joe Hill definitely takes a lot of his writing influence from his dad. It's very clear. In fact, he doesn't take more than that from his dad. He also apparently is going to do cameos and adaptations of his stuff just like his dad, because he was in the last episode of this.
For a second when I saw him, I said, "Oh, Stephen King's cameoing in this," and then I'm like, "Oh no, wait, he's way too young to be Stephen King. That's Joe Hill. He just looks exactly like Stephen King."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Joe Hill. Yeah, I saw a picture of Joe Hill a while ago, and yeah, he looks almost identical to his dad. To the point where I don't think he's Stephen King's biological kid. I think Stephen King actually had himself cloned so that he could be immortal.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But yeah, that was crazy because my brain jumped to that same conclusion at first. I was like, no, wait, that's Joe Hill.
Stephen King's not that young. What's going on?
Yeah, really, yeah, exactly. He looks exactly like, if you see like Stephen King, like from the 70s, he looks exactly like him.
Yeah, pretty much. It is really funny seeing that, and just like all the tropes, it really is very Stephen King tropey, you know. But I think that the one thing I think that Joe Hill might have done better than what his dad's done is with the magic system. I think King's magic systems have always been a bit more vague.
King. I don't believe, I haven't read like all of his work, but like even in like The Dark Tower, which is like his big fantasy masterwork, there isn't like a super intricately detailed magic system.
Yeah,
you know, he doesn't really go into that stuff. Stephen King tends to treat like magic as more of an unknown quantity. Like it's magic, I'll have to explain shit. Whereas Joe Hill really wants to go in on creating this system and basically exploring how it works and stuff, which is cool.
Yeah, because all those keys are really cool. And then we get the idea of these demon-like entities that possess, and then even those have rules. Like the idea that, you know, the demons can't take the keys, but they can only not take them from the Locke family. Like they can take them from other people, but not the Lockes. So then it's like, okay, so then how are these keys connected to the Lockes, and where do these come from? I think those are all things that are going to be played into season 2. I know some of the information, but I don't want to spoil it from the graphic novel. I know some of the information, but Yeah, it's there's more like interweaving stuff about all of that, you know. It's going to be interesting to see if that, you know, the one grandfather that's like in that like astral plane or whatever with the ghost key, if he ends up kind of playing a part, because right now he's just kind of like said hi and sat on a bench.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like a lot of the keys were cool, but they didn't really have like a large role to play in the story when things got out. Like the mirror key was just like a one-off episode. They kept referring back to it, but nothing really happens with that key.
Yeah,
of that
that's I think because it was
with the ghost key.
The mirror key. I think is largely because, like I mentioned before, it's from the it's not in the graphic novel, and
right.
So in order to stick with the overarching plot, like they just didn't use it much, you know.
Right, and then the ghost key doesn't get much use.
It gets a pretty big use. I actually like its final use, because we have this storyline where this kid Sam, who was Tyler's friend, or Tyler was encouraged to be his friend by his dad because Sam was troubled, and came from a troubled upbringing. But then Tyler ended up becoming friends with him. Sam ended up getting kind of influenced by Dodge, like through a painting.
Yeah.
Which we don't know how that works either. We'll have to see how
which
that
is
works.
which is another Stephen King trope, actually, because like that happens like a lot in It.
Yes.
Especially the exact same thing happens in It, because there's a scene in It, at least from like the TV movie I remember, where the bully is like in prison or something, and like Pennywise like talks to him like through the moon or some shit, and it's like the exact same thing. It's I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's a Stephen King trope.
So this guy's kid Sam, he ends up like trying to get the keys and everything from Rendell, who is the kid's father, the patriarch of the Locke family, who's dead when the series begins. And
by the way, it's never explained how Dodge is communicating through pictures. There is no communicate through pictures key that's ever introduced. So I don't know.
We have to see what that means. Like maybe that painting was created through some weird means, or that makes it like linked to the actual house, or I don't know. But anyways, maybe that's the reason he kept it on his wall, because Rendell kept it on his wall, because if it was linked to the actual house and the property, then he'd be able to keep track of it just by having that painting in his office or something.
Yeah, that's probably why.
So there might have been something like that. Maybe the painting was like created with a key, the paintbrush key.
Yeah, the paintbrush key, exactly.
This is going to go from Stephen King to like the peanut butter solution. But anyways, so Sam goes to try to get information from the house and the keys and everything from Rendell, ends up killing him. That's what sets up the story with all the kids and their mom going to this house, which is Rendell's like ancestral home, the Locke family's ancestral home, basically.
Yeah.
Key house, which is where all these keys come from, and you know, it's a massive like colonial home. And then Sam, he's in prison for having, you know, killed their father. He ends up being let out by Dodge with the flame key, which is another one that wasn't in the graphic novel. But he uses the flame key to escape from, he's like in a prison asylum thing, I think. He escapes from that, kills, like basically burns down the asylum or prison or whatever on his way out, killing them all. And then he goes to the key house and ends up like holding the Locks hostage, trying to get the keys from them, and doing Dodge's bidding, basically. And this is like, that was like very Stephen King, the whole thing where he's holding them hostage and he's kind of having a mental breakdown, and you know, that whole thing, very Stephen King.
The cool part was when they used the head key on him, and then Dodge shows up to kill him, and he gets a hold of the ghost key, and he ends up becoming a spirit, and then they drag his body away. And
that was by accident, because Bodhi had used the ghost key and told his brother to keep the door open so that he wouldn't get locked out. So so he goes, does it, comes back, left the key in the door. So when like the police are showing up and Sam's been stabbed by Dodge, who that's where she proved that she could take the keys from somebody, just not the locks, because she takes the keys from him and kills him. But he's not dead yet. He's like surviving, and he exits out the door, not realizing that the key is in the door. His body just falls down, assumed dead to everybody who doesn't know about the keys, and his spirit flies out. And then when he tries to go back in, they close the door. And so apparently that seals him out. I don't know if that seals him out for good or what, but he can't get back in. They take his body away, so there's really no way for him to get his body back.
Right, and then he kind of fades away. Which does that mean like he's just dead now, or I don't?
Yeah, I don't know if that means that he's gone, or that they were just narratively showing that he's irrelevant now.
Right.
You know, like if that was a narrative tool to show that he's no longer relevant, that he's played his part and now he's just a ghost, or if he's literally faded away, as in like he no longer exists.
Right. That part's a little bit vague.
Yeah, but it was a really cool scene, a really cool turn that, you know, like, you know, with all the things that, all the stupid decisions and other things that seem like they're not really plotted that well, that there are issues with in this series. That was like a really cool, you know, Twilight Zone twist moment.
And also like Kinsey unleashing, you know, tricking him into going out into the woods with her and Bodhi, and unleashing her fear on him was like actually like a smart move. Like
I liked the whole personification of her fear thing. That's related to the head key. I love the use of the head key in this show. So
one of the cool things about the head key is you can go in there and there are manifestations of your of emotions. I guess it's only I don't know, it's not really explained, but I guess it's only like manifestations of like your strongest emotion, because you don't really see like the other emotions and they only show like Bodhi's and Kinsey's anyway. Like they go into like, I think they go into Tyler's head at one point, but they don't show like any emotions from his head. But they show like Bodhi has like his emotion is like joy or something. It's like excitement. And it's just Bodhi like being excited and bouncing around and stuff. And it's pretty harmless. But then when they go into Kinsey's head, she has PTSD from what happened back in Seattle with the guy we were just talking about who killed her dad, you know. And basically, you know, what happened in Seattle is he killed their dad, and then he started stalking them, you know.
Mm-hmm. And she was holding Bodhi and keeping his mouth shut so that he wouldn't alert the location, trying to keep him safe, hiding under a table. And so she has all this guilt about that, combined with all the fear from, you know, not being able to act, even though she was protecting Bodhi at the time.
Yeah, she was protecting Bodhi from Sam, and you know, her mother ended up knocking Sam out, you know, and ending that encounter. But Kinsey now has PTSD, where for the first couple episodes she's constantly like, you know, she's in these situations and she's constantly having flashbacks, you know, and she's kind of paralyzed with fear. And so when Kinsey finally goes into her head with the head key, she finds out that her strongest emotion is her fear, and that takes the form of like a demon in like the image of herself.
Yeah,
you know?
It looks kind of like her if she was in like The Ring, you know?
yeah, exactly. And it's just like this evil, malicious thing that like runs towards whatever Kinsey is afraid of and does its best to kill it.
Yeah. So, but it's also, it's the fear that's in her head. And that's the cool thing about the head key is you can put things in your head and take things out of your head. And so Kinsey takes
we see that
fear
because,
out of herself.
we see that earlier because Tyler puts like a book about Matheson in his head, and then he gets all these facts about Matheson, like he automatically knows because he put that book in his head.
That's another change, by the way. In the books, in the graphic novel, the town's called Lovecraft.
Oh.
And they changed it to Matheson because apparently now, like I'm not completely up on it, but there's a lot of like problematic racist stuff that's come out about Lovecraft now.
Lovecraft. It's known now that Lovecraft was a notorious racist. So
they kind of have stripped him out of references like that.
So I think it's best that we don't deify him. So I think that's reasonable change. Also, Lovecraft. I mean, that's kind of on the nose anyway. I really hate like those kind of like corny references. It's like it's like me making like a horror series, like and naming like the town they live in, like I don't know, like you know, Kingtown. It's like oh, that's corny. You don't need to be that corny.
There's still some stuff in there though, like we mentioned Ellie. Did you notice what her last name is?
Yeah, Ellie Whedon. Yeah, I noticed that.
That's got to be intentional.
Like I said, like I said, this show is far from being free of cheese. I mean, literally, there's a scene where Dodge gets the Crown of Shadows, and she, or I guess he, in that scene, literally just says, "Hello, darkness, my old friend." And I kind of groaned. I'm like, so it's not completely free of cheese, but yeah, Matheson, in my opinion, is a better name than Lovecraft.
Yeah,
just my opinion on the subject. But yeah, like you were saying, the really awesome thing about the head key is that you can remove stuff from your head and put stuff in. And Kinsey gets the idea that she's going to remove her fear from her head and become fearless. She's gonna basically she sets out to murder her fear.
Mm-hmm. Which is, it works, but it's also somewhat problematic because it affects her judgment.
Yeah.
So
because
on one hand, she's like, she is fearless and she's able to kind of become like a leader and to, you know, really just get stuff done and be very capable in that sense. But on the other hand, like I said, it affects her judgment.
Well, yeah, because now she makes like a bunch of stupid decisions and just rushes into them without second guessing them.
Mm-hmm. She doesn't have anxiety or fear about what could go wrong, and so she just kind of jumps into things.
Right. So she's more reckless now.
Yeah.
You know.
But she buried her fear, and then she ends up.
Most like it said, she basically like stabs it with a knife, like murders it and buries it. Although you can't really kill it, it's an emotion, so you can't really kill it.
Yeah,
but she neutralizes it.
But then she brings it back against Sam when she goes out to the woods, saying that the keys are buried there, and she goes to where she buried her fear and uses that as a way to kind of attack Sam, which was interesting. It kind of turned the tables for a moment, but not completely.
Not completely. And then from that point on, she kind of just lets it run loose to do whatever it wants without thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like, okay. You know, until it mauls like the girl who's bullying her throughout the series.
Eden, yeah.
Like, yeah, that's like kind of when she like realizes that it's a problem that thing's running around. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. We should talk about, you had mentioned the Stephen King trope of like kids that, you know, then have, faced a horror as children and then it affects them when they have to come back and face it as adults. Like that Stephen King trope. We should talk about that because it's kind of like the background story to everything that happens in this. It's the origin of Dodge. It's the origin of, all the issues with the Locke family.
So we don't know like the origins of the origin. We don't know the history of Key House or where exactly the keys come from or where the Omega Door or like anything from that. But we know a bit of the backstory that's relevant to what's happening now, which goes back to, the kid's father, Randall Locke. So when he was growing up, he grew up in Key House, because that's the family's ancestral home. And him and his friends, they found the keys, and very much like Tyler, Kinsey, and Bodhi at the beginning, upon discovering the keys, they just discovered what they could do and played with them like they were toys, until eventually at some point they discovered the Omega Door in the caves. And what happened is they opened the Omega Door and like they said, like these bullets shot out, which are like actually like the Omega Door is very clearly a gateway to another dimension.
Yeah.
Gateways to evil dimensions are a Stephen King staple. By the way, that's another Stephen King trope. It is a gateway to another dimension. So like these demons shoot out of this gate, and the trick of it is the demons coming out have to possess somebody. So as soon as one hits, it possesses that person, and then you have an issue. In this case, the demon flies into Randall's friend,
Lucas.
Lucas. And they don't know immediately that anything's wrong, just that he got hit by this bullet thing, and then, they said like, oh, Lucas swore that he was all right. And then what happened was later that night, in the middle of the night, Lucas starts demanding, Lucas, who is now Dodge, by the way, because he was possessed by Dodge.
Well, Dodge was Lucas's nickname before that.
Yeah.
So the demon has no name.
We don't have another, we don't have a name for the demon. So for the sake of having a name, we call the demon Dodge, since demons seem to have adopted that as its name anyway.
Yeah. The demon, it's demanding all of the keys. It's attacking the kids.
Well, it's demanding the Omega key more than anything.
It kills two of them.
Yeah, it kills two of the kids, and then Randall
kills him. Yeah, kills Lucas.
Yeah, Randall, in a moment of desperation, just kills Lucas because Lucas is killing all of his friends.
Yeah. So now 3 of his friends have died. This becomes later on, without diverting too far from topic, later on that becomes like this urban legend about all these kids that died in this cave that drowned when the tide came in.
Because Ellie says, like they had to come up with a cover story of why these kids were dead. They couldn't just tell people, oh, we opened a door and a demon possessed our friends and he killed the other 2, so we had to kill him. Like that would not fly. So they came up with this story that they drowned in the caves and they threw them in the ocean and let the bodies wash up.
That left I think 4 of the remaining people were of Rendell and his group were left alive. Rendell, Ellie, there's another guy, an Asian guy, and
there's
then
an Asian man, and then there's the woman who's in the mental hospital.
Yeah, which we find out later she's in the hospital because she's closed herself inside her own head. Yeah,
she used the head key to hide inside her own head.
Yeah, so she's not insane, she's just like comatose or whatever because she's in her own head. But the Asian guy, he kills himself in the beginning of the first episode.
Because he said he knows the locations of the keys, and he kills himself in the first episode to keep Dodge from using the head key on him to find out where the keys are.
Yeah, so he uses the flame key to kill himself. Which is from that location. I'll take a little side detour. How dark was that moment when like Dodge got the flame key from that house? And it was like these kids that had found it. And then she's like, she shows that she has a key too. And she's like, I'll show you mine if you show me yours. And he shows the flame, and then she shows the door, opens it to a subway train, and then throws the kid onto the subway tracks in front of a car, oncoming subway car.
Oh yeah, that's dark. Yeah, they don't shy away from pointing out that Dodge is completely evil. Like,
but it's kind of funny because like I don't think they ever went that dark again. That was like the darkest moment in the entire series.
That's true. Yeah, that was the darkest moment in the series. Yeah, that was. They went pretty dark with that scene.
Because I was like, holy shit! Like that happened. I couldn't believe it. It was so in contrast to what we'd seen before. But
it's interesting because when Randall kills Tyler, that ends it. What ends up happening is Ellie.
Tyler, you mean Lucas?
Yeah. When Randall kills Lucas, that ends it. Pretty much. But what happens is Ellie, out of grief and stupidity,
as an adult, we should say.
As an adult, by the way, as an adult, not as a teenager. This is even more stupid as an adult. Trust me. But
stupid and kind of creepy too.
Yes, kind of creepy. She uses the echo key to try and bring Lucas back. Even though, and she doesn't think about like she knows like the echo just brings back an echo of that person, like so not really that person. So it's kind of pointless anyway. But not only that, but she doesn't bring Lucas back with the echo. The echo brings back Dodge, like the demon that was inhabiting Lucas.
And the echo key is supposed to be only like it brings them back, but they're trapped in the well, basically in the well house,
and
they can't leave.
And they can't leave.
But she ends up bringing him, or no, she doesn't bring it to him.
She ends up bringing
Dodge. She gives Dodge the identity key. I don't know why she did that, but then Dodge used the identity key to take on her female form, and then she used that to convince Bodhi to give her the go anywhere key. She does that by tricking Bodhi into getting his own mom locked into the mirror world where it's really dangerous, and then she uses that as an impetus to get him to give her the go anywhere key. And by having that key, Dodge is able to escape. The echo of Dodge is able to escape.
Yeah. And we find out, and then we find out that Dodge, taking on the identity of Lucas, has been using Ellie this whole time to help her do her bidding.
Mm-hmm. His bidding,
him,
their
the proper,
their bidding, yeah.
So it's kind of fucked up. So like everything that's happening now is Ellie's fault.
Yeah. when Ellie brought him back, even when he was trapped in the well house, even when Lucas was trapped in the well house, Lucas was able to influence Sam and initiate Randall's death, which in turn led to the Asian man killing himself. So it's like all these deaths on her head already, even before the Locke show up and Bodhi accidentally sets her free.
Right. Exactly. Because it's Ellie's fault that Dodge is in that well in the first place.
Yeah.
I don't know if Dodge was dead, but Dodge was certainly. It seemed like what happened was. This is explained, but it seemed what happened was when the demon possesses a body like that, they're tied to that body. So it seemed like when Randall killed Lucas. Basically, that left the demon trapped in a dead body, unable to do anything. And then when Ellie summoned the Echo, the demon was able to come back attached to the Echo, or even like unattached, and just like.
I think the demon died, but what we have isn't just a copy of Lucas; it's a copy of the demon in Lucas. Yeah, so it's not even the original demon; it's a copy as well.
So you think Dodge, the demon itself, is a copy as well?
Yes.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
So there's all sorts of like things that you can kind of wonder. But
they also point out now that an Echo, unlike a person, an Echo can't be killed. So they can't just bludgeon. They can't just do what Randall did and just bludgeon Dodge to death now because Dodge is an Echo now. So she's truly unkillable.
Yeah. So I guess we should briefly touch on the dynamics of the kids and our friends in the school, because that comes into play later. But basically, Bodhi, we can quickly come over him. He makes friends with a older teenager named Rufus, who is Ellie's adopted son, and who is suffering from some form of autism, it seems. He's on the autism spectrum at some area. He doesn't necessarily make the greatest decisions. In some way, he's very childish, but he's not. He doesn't have like Down syndrome or something. He's not disabled in that way. It's more something similar to like autism, I would guess. And he and Bodhi bond over their love of like basically G.I. Joe like figures and that kind of stuff. So they bond over that. Then you have Tyler, who he gets into jock hockey stuff. That none of that really matters though. But the one part that does matter is that he ends up becoming attracted to this one girl, which is why he threw all that information about the town into his head to like impress her. Or not about the town. He threw information about London or like England into his head because she was into England, and he ended up just spouting all these facts to her. And that showed a limitation of the head key as well. That like he has all the information, but it's basically just like information on Wikipedia. It's not like really understanding. It's just like listing facts.
Throwing a book in your head can't impart understanding.
Yeah. So Yeah, so he's got like a love interest there. That love interest has a best friend who was interested in him as well at one point, but who is also the one who's basically bullying Kinsey. Kinsey, on the other hand, ends up connected to a guy named Scott, who's British himself, but that is, living in that town, and he clearly has like a crush on her, and she's kind of somewhat interested in him and developing a likeness to him, and he's like a film nerd, and he's got two friends, Zadie and Doug, and they have a group, I can't remember what it's called. It's named after the makeup effects artist who did like the original like Night of the Living or Dawn of the Savini.
Savini.
Yeah, so they call themselves the Savinis.
He actually makes a cameo in this too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he works at like a locksmith, and he gives like one of the kids, I think it's Bodhi. He gives him like this big jar of keys. Yeah, it's Bodhi. Yeah, because that's the point where Bodhi had just found the head key, and he sees like the lock forming in Tom Savini's head. When he puts the key near him.
Yeah. But, so this group, the Savinis, are Kinsey's friend, they're trying to make like a movie, basically, like a horror movie. And, so those are kind of like, we won't dive too much into the side plots, because they're not really that necessary. But the main thing to know is that
side plots were kind of boring, to be honest.
But the main things you need to know are like, the characters like Scott, who's the leader of the Savinis that are trying to do this film thing. And then Gabe, who is another person who gets connected to the Savinis. Who we end up finding out is actually, at the end of the series, we find out is actually Dodge.
Yes. So Dodge is Gabe and Lucas and Dodge. Yes. Yeah. And it's terrible. Like, she's abusing the hell out of the identity key. Yeah. Trust me. Somebody's got to get that away from her.
So that leads us into, there's a point in which they want a good location, the Savinis, to film, and Kinsey, kind of partly inspired by that, but mostly because she wants to explore the caves that are in the property. They go into these sea caves where the urban legend is that her father's friends died there, but we already mentioned that was a cover-up. And so she wants to explore those caves, and she gets the Savinis to go because they're these crazy sea caves that look really cool to film there. And they go down there, and they're bringing all their equipment, and they're checking it out, except they find this Omega door, which ends up intriguing her. But then when they're down there, the tide comes in, and they kind of barely escape with their lives.
Yeah, well, sea caves are dangerous because, it fills up during high tide. And so...
Yeah. And so later on, when they get attacked by Dodge, and they end up knocking her out, and their plan is to throw her back into the Omega door because they can't kill her. They have this information now.
Which is, by the way, a monumentally stupid plan.
Yeah, they have the mirror key. That's a much better place.
They have the mirror key. There must be some way to rebind her to, the well. Maybe they could get the echo key.
All they need is the go anywhere key, and then they take her through that door into the well, and then take the go anywhere key, and she's stuck in there again.
She's stuck in the well again. I mean, there are multiple ways rather than let's open a dangerous door to another dimension where demons got out the first time.
Let's shoot out like bullets, yeah.
So what could possibly go wrong? It's like, what?
So they take a knocked out Dodge.
It was really
what
cool.
They think is Dodge.
It was really cool though, at the end there when Dodge had the crown of shadows, it was attacking the house and all the shadow monsters, and the way Bodhi defeated Dodge by attaching the flame key to the end of his toy light stick.
His toy lightsaber, yeah.
Yeah, I call it light stick because
it was a generic lightsaber that couldn't.
Yeah. Lightsabers are not multicolored.
And they did that because of the rights.
Yeah, they did that because of rights. But yeah, he attaches it to the end of his toy lightsaber and basically stabs the shadow of Dodge right through with the flame key and kills it. And that's the awesomest thing any of the kids have done in the whole series so far, and Bodhi has the honor of getting in that blow, and I thought that was cool. That was awesome.
Yeah.
But
they end up finding they finding her knocked out in the middle of their room, like underneath the staircase, sans the shadow crown.
Yeah, sans the shadow crown.
They notice, but then they just go like, oh yeah, let's just move on.
Yeah, they don't really like question it, like where it went. They're like, nobody. You see, this is another thing where like I question the intelligence of these kids. They don't question where the crown is. Nobody's going, we need to grab the crown. We need to grab the keys off of her while she's knocked out, so that we make sure that we have them and that she doesn't have them. Nobody's saying that. They're actually standing over her, like almost like they're waiting for her to wake up. It's like I was like, get the keys off of her.
Get the mirror key, throw her in a fucking mirror. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, throw her in a mirror. And then they say, what do we do now? And they're like, well, we can't kill her. And then they come up with the stupidest plan ever. So let's throw her through the Omega door. Like, didn't she want that door open in the first place?
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to do it for her?
Not only do they decide to do that, but then they call up their friends and get them involved, too.
Yeah, they get them involved in that. So, because they know they can't carry a body down the sea caves through the Omega door by themselves.
Including Gabe, who we've already mentioned, we find out at the end of the series is actually Dodge.
So we find out at the end of the series, Gabe. So the reason Gabe is able to be there, to help carry Dodge to the Omega door is because that's not Dodge, it's Ellie. We find out shortly after Dodge is thrown into the Omega door that Ellie ends up missing.
No, we find out before. That's what makes it even dumber.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because Rufus contacts Bodhi and says, I don't know where my mom is. And he says, Ellie's missing. Something might be wrong. And Tyler and Kinsey are like, yeah. Let's throw Dodge through the Omega door.
Yeah. Let's just throw Dodge through the Omega door.
Let's ignore all these weird, inconsistencies, even though we know about the identity key and everything else.
Well, yeah, we find out Dodge used the identity key to transform Ellie into her, and basically, this is the part where I thought the ending was this is prep time Dodge, because literally Dodge, before she attacks Key House with the Crown of Shadows, she turns Ellie into her and knocks her out and places her in the lobby, and then basically just counts on them being able to defeat her shadows and thinking that they knocked her out. What if they didn't? Yeah. I guess in that point she wins anyway, but it's kind of I don't know. That's a very specific plan. There's a lot of variable. What if somebody discovered the body while the shadows were still attacking the house? Yeah. Dodge is knocked out, but Dodge's shadow is still attacking us. I don't know what's going on.
But she's not wearing the shadow crown. She's
not wearing the shadow crown, so how's anything still happening? It's kind of that's kind of an asshole. I'm okay, that's prep time Batman shit. A very specific order of events has to happen for that plan to work. Come on.
So the kids, they go into the sea cave, they open the Omega door. They don't know it yet at the time, but by doing so, they let another fucking demon through that ends up going into Eden. Yeah,
which they don't notice, by the way. These bullets are flying everywhere, and they're naive enough to think that just because somebody didn't say ow, that nobody got hurt, that nobody got hit with one.
Then they throw Dodge into the Omega door, and then as she's falling out, which is really Ellie, but looks like Dodge, as she's falling out, she reaches out for them and is basically desperately trying to talk to them. They're like, screw you, Dodge, and pushing her away. And they close the door, now locking Ellie in the Omega door, which I guess means if they somehow get her back in season 2 and she doesn't have a demon in her, how? Yeah. Those demons are flying like bullets, straight up speed of sound, one couldn't hit her in that realm where they come from.
Even if Ellie doesn't end up being possessed for some reason, she's still going to be massively changed from that experience, I'm sure.
Well, and how could she even survive in there? It was basically looked like empty space.
Yeah, you can't go into some
there's no food there or anything.
You can't get chucked into some freaky demon dimension and not be completely changed by that. So
So they fucked up Ellie's life. They fucked up Rufus's life. Rufus gets sent away.
And then they high-five each other at the end, we won. And then we find out that Gabe, as you know, Gabe, who is revealed to be Dodge, meets up with the other Eden, who is now possessed by another demon. We don't know who this demon is, but if I had to guess, I'm guessing that this is the reason Dodge wanted the Omega Key in the first place, to free this demon who Dodge has a connection to.
Which is another weird plan, because tons of demons flew out, and only this one connected. And how would you know that one would connect? And what happens to the other demons that fly out? They're just like dead, I guess, because they didn't connect.
They're dead if they don't connect.
So if that other demon was the one, like, how did they know that the demon he wanted was going to be the one that made it through? There's a lot of inconsistencies.
Right.
This comes down to my final verdict on Locke Key, which is that it's a fun series. That there's a lot of flaws and problems, but it's very fun.
Right. It gets you invested, and you do enjoy the ride, even though there's inconsistencies. There's some corny bits, and some things, like, if you think about it too much, it's kind of like, oh man. But right, if you overanalyze certain things, it doesn't make sense. But
that's Locke Key.
Very fun show. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to season 2. I'm hoping it improves. I hope they start getting more into the keys than even before, because that's the most interesting part. I hope they get more into like the origins of the keys and the house itself, like how the keys and everything came into existence, because apparently they're a lot older than any of the history that they've shown in the show so far. Yeah. So this is the show's being run by Carlton Cuse. There's another showrunner as well involved.
I was going to say that. I was going to bring that up. Everything's connected, because this is executive produced by Carlton Cuse. Lost. Hello.
Yeah.
Everything's connected.
Well, what I was going to say, though, is if this was Lindelof instead of Cuse, we know that the second season would open with basically like in the 1800s or something.
No, yeah.
There'd be like a scene from the 1800s would be the opening scene of season 2, but it would be set up so that we thought it was a scene from modern day.
Yeah.
And then we'd be like, wait a minute, who's this guy? Oh shit, it's the 1800s. And then the Locke and Key title would start. We're so used to the tropes now of these creators, Yeah,
exactly. We're so used to these creators' tropes.
So it'll be interesting to see how Cuse and his new partner for this series end up handling season 2 and how they address things and how much they end up giving away, how much they go into the story. The graphic novel series isn't that long. I can't imagine them really going more than like 3 seasons.
Unless they just start inventing new material.
Yeah. They find keys to other dimensions.
Yeah.
Then they go to the Avatar dimension.
They go to the Avatar dimension. They find the key to the house, which is just a normal front door key to the house. Ooh.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it for Locke and Key. We'll continue to be apprised of what's happening with season 2 when it eventually comes out. I'm pretty sure we'll cover it, depending on if there's just other shit that we need to cover over that,
Right.
But let's move on to our weekly discussion, which is The Magicians. We're going to be talking about the last musical episode of the series, the penultimate episode.
I was like, leave it to the Magicians to make the penultimate episode of the series a music episode.
It's a music episode, and it's also a heist episode. Those are two key episode types of the Magicians. They've done several heist episodes and several musical episodes.
So this is a very Magicians episode.
Yeah.
You could say.
So I guess we should start with Sir Effingham having last week figured out that Juliet was basically the cause of the disaster that he was predicting.
Yes. He shows up to try to convince everybody to kill Julia, and they immediately turn on him. And this leads to the first big musical number of the episode, where Sir Effingham just bursts out into song. You got to be cruel to be kind. And everybody starts dancing and singing against their own will. Everybody's confused.
This is because of this tool that Zelda told them to get. Zelda, the head librarian, told them to get this conductor's wand in order to pull off this heist heist that they want to pull off, and saying that it allows one person to kind of conduct everybody else so that it's not chaos of everybody in each other's head. You have a conductor that's doing that, that's handling it, moving everybody around and informing them of what they need to do. Kind of the man in the van, I guess. Right. The man in the seat, I think they call it in
the magical man in the seat. Yes.
Yes. Like Ned from Spider-Man. So they're having Marina is going to play that role, but they have this one, and they realize that there's a problem with this conductor's one, which is that if their emotions get out of hand, because it's a conductor's one, they burst into song.
Which is what happened with Sir Effingham.
So they end up going back to something that happened all the way back in season 1, I believe. Was it season 1 or it's pretty sure it was season 1.
It was very early. It was either season 1 or season 2. It was very early in the series.
Yeah, where they got this. 1. They used this spell to take away their emotions, basically, and seal them up in these bottles.
Yes.
Temporarily, so that they could act through it without getting distracted and going crazy.
I love it. Sir Effingham leaves. He gives Josh the shotgun, and Josh assures him that he's going to kill Julia because he's a good Catholic.
As sure as I'm a good Catholic, I'll kill her. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry.
Which, with certain showrunners, we've talked about different showrunners and how they would handle things. With certain showrunners, like, if it was Joss Whedon, he'd play that off as a big joke, and then, like, Josh would actually end up killing Julia for some completely different reason, some tragic reason. And that would have been the foreshadowing that we all dismissed as a joke.
Yeah, that would Curse you, Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon's signature is pissing you off with killing off beloved characters out of the blue.
Yeah. So the Effingham stuff is kind of like off the table for now. He thinks that he's got it covered, that Josh is going to kill Julia. Josh obviously has no intention of doing that. Julia's not even with the group for this whole adventure. They have a side storyline with Julia and Penny that we'll get to later. Because that's not the heist storyline. That's not the musical storyline. It's like the subplot of this episode.
I think we gotta say the real reason they have to repress their emotions it's because of songs. Also, it's because, as Marina was explaining this hotel, so we should explain a little bit about this hotel that they're trying. Yeah, we should explain like everything about it. So Marina describes it as a magic safe space. Like, there are anti-traveling wards, there's anti-magic spying wards, there's all kinds of wards.
Have you seen John Wick?
Yeah.
This is the magical Continental, basically. In the John Wick movies, there's a hotel called the Continental, and the idea is it's neutral ground. Nobody does anything. If you break the rules, it's severe punishment. Nobody's stupid enough to do it. Of course, some people end up doing it because they are stupid enough to do it. But the idea is you have to be crazy to break these rules. That there's all these safety measures in place, and it's a neutral ground for like the underworld. And this is kind of that. This is like the magical version of the Continental from John Wick.
Yeah, Marina describes it as a magic safe space.
Yeah.
No bad magic. And the key to this is the bellhops, who aren't just like regular people. They're actually golems imbued with empathy so that they can sense people's emotions.
Yeah.
So that they could use people's emotions to sense what they're about to do or what they're doing, and then zero in on them. Mm-hmm. Otherwise they literally can't see you, because you're invisible to them unless they can sense your emotions.
So this is what happened with Marina's like former group that she had sent in to steal this thing. They basically, one of them got killed, and then the traveler guy got basically crushed. Just beaten till every bone in his body was broken, was about to be killed, and traveled out of there at the last second.
Yeah, managed to travel out of there before getting killed, but not before he had every bone in his body broken.
So it's not just like death; it's like miserable death at the hands of these bellhops. If you interfere, if you try to steal or do any crime there or whatever, you try to attack another person in there. You're going to face these golems, and they're going to destroy you.
Yeah, basically.
So they're they're going through this. They have this spell that's blocking off their emotions, both to stop them from bursting out into song, but also for doing that. Alice ends up finding out when they end up in a tricky situation at one point that she can weaponize her emotions.
Yeah, so what happens is they end up in a situation where the bellhops zero in on them, and Alice ends up, I think she ends up getting hit and getting thrown, and she ends up like her vial with her emotions ends up like getting knocked open, and her emotions get restored, and she immediately bursts out into song, because she gets so overwhelmed with emotion in that moment.
Yeah.
And then she finds out that her singing, her song like overwhelms the golem with so much emotion that it paralyzes it.
Yeah. And so they figure out now that they have a weapon against these golems. They can overwhelm them emotionally. They found the kryptonite.
Yeah, they found they can overwhelm them emotionally. So they realize now that their emotions are not a detriment to them, that they can actually use them as a weapon.
Unfortunately, they also now have a problem with Alice being a wreck emotionally.
Yeah, an absolute mess.
Yeah.
And this is mostly because of what the couple did to her in like I believe it was the last episode where they cut off her fingers.
It was like episode 9. It was one of the last ones we talked about last week where he had cut off all her fingers, the one guy from the couple.
Yeah.
Which we should say now we know the couple are the balls.
Yeah, they're the balls.
That's why they go by the couple instead of the balls.
Instead of the balls. Yeah, that's why they go couple. And we find out that they actually have a pretty decent reason for wanting to build a new world. Apparently, like, they have enemies, and their enemies that they're hiding from, by the way, cursed them so that they're infertile, and their reasoning is if they create this new world, they can live free from their enemies and also be able to conceive.
Yeah, which, I mean, you think they could just say, well, then, hey, just give us this and we'll just send you to Fillory.
Yeah, right.
So basically they, and not only can you have a baby, but you'll have it in like a couple months.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I don't know if Fillory can make them fertile, but yeah. And Fillory is not an ideal place to live right now anyway.
Yeah, they're going to destroy it anyways, yeah.
Yeah.
So they find out that that's the reason that the couple's doing what they're doing, why they want the world seed. They find the location of the world seed because the world seed has to be at a high temperature. I think it's like 98 degrees.
It has to be hot. It's going to die if it's like even like a second outside of like that temperature. It will die. Mm-hmm. And so the thing is, Marina originally thought it was like in this vault, which was very cold.
Yeah,
but no, it wouldn't be there.
The information was wrong. They didn't know that the seed had to be kept at a really high temperature, and so it couldn't have been the vault, that it was too cold in. So they end up finding out by checking just kind of the temperatures in the hotel that like one room is really hot while all the other ones are nice and cool, as they'd be in a hotel. Nobody has their room at like 98 degrees in a hotel room, So one room just happens to be really hot, so they know that's where the couple are. So they have a plan to kind of take care of them, but their distraction, which is Pete basically making some negotiation with the couple with a bottle of wine that has to take a half hour to decant, is like their distraction. And they end up getting pulled away from that meeting because something shows them that something's up. I can't remember what it was, but they get notified that something's wrong. And so they take off to take care of the problem themselves, to head up to the room. In doing so, they capture some of our magicians. But I can't remember all the details of this. It's not really important, I don't think, to break down all the details of how they got away from the couple and everything. But the main point...
Oh, no, it's not. Just the broad strokes.
The main point is that I think it's Fen and Josh that are captured. Maybe Fen, Josh, and Margot, I think. And it was Alice, Katie, and Elliot that were at the time when Alice ended up weaponizing emotion. So Katie ends up rejoining the group to save them. And at the same time, Elliot ends up releasing some of his emotion, not all of it, but a little bit of his emotion, to do a duet with Alice in order to help her come to terms, basically, by joining her in song to help her kind of calm down so that she can rejoin them. One thing leads to another. There's a brief moment where they lose the conductor's wand because Marina's girlfriend tracks Marina down and breaks the wand because she's like, I knew you were going to get involved in this, breaks the wand. They end up, Marina ends up basically having to tell her to get out, to leave, to show her priorities, and loses that relationship. So now Alice and the group have ruined Marina's like one shot at happiness, but oh well, Marina's kind of a dick, so
right.
Kind of deserved it or more, They end up getting away from the couple, but they don't know where to go to get away. Like they can't get out of the hotel, basically. They get cornered by the bellhops. They don't know what to do. Alice figures something out. She says, she starts writing a note. She's like, I think I have an idea. And she sends like a paper airplane out the window of the hotel. They all meet up with 24 Hours to Go by the Ramones, singing that song.
Yes.
Weaponizing their emotions against these bellhops who end up eventually figuring out to counter that by wearing earphones. But it's too late. They get away. They get to the roof of the building, and they're now like everyone's like, what did you do? What's your plan? What's your big escape plan, Alice? And she's like, it's not so much a plan as it is a plea. And then you see Santa Claus come in.
Yes. Ho, 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 motherfuckers.
Yeah, so a return of a great moment from last season.
Yeah,
the return
awesome.
of Santa Claus. And that's pretty much it for that. That's kind of like the main storyline of the episode.
As quintessential magicians, it was fun to see that. It reminds me I'm going to miss this show.
Yeah.
But we still got one episode left.
But we won't be talking about it for like a month.
Right, yeah.
We have some special episodes coming up, and they're getting in the way. So we won't be the episode's airing this week, but we're not going to be talking about it for a while. So if everyone's wondering why we're not talking about it, it's just because we have some other stuff coming up that we need to cover first. We have a Lost episode to do, then we have our 250th episode, then we have another Lost episode, and then we have then finally we have our chance to do the actual Magicians episode again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so there is one story left in the Magicians that was in this episode, and that involved Penny and Julia. So Penny's worried because not only did his mom go crazy when she was pregnant with him, but it got worse after he was born. And she got institutionalized multiple times. Julia ends up saying, well, if we're ever going to solve this, then we need to actually confront your mother. And so they find out like, oh, there's this hospital and that's where she's located. And so they're going to go and visit her. Julia goes first to visit her. They kind of scope things out and finds out that she's not a patient at this hospital. She's a nurse.
Yes.
And so she goes back to to Penny.
To Penny.
And Penny, like, now has to face his mom. So he goes forward and he faces her. And she's kind of freaked out and he wants to talk about what's going on, but she doesn't quite understand. She doesn't know about magic or anything. And she starts talking about, at one point, how she was really bad. She gave him up, recovered, and then as soon as he came back to her, she got bad again. And then in the course of their conversation, she starts losing her mind.
Yeah.
She starts, like, hearing things and stuff.
And Penny's confused because Penny figures since he lost his ability to travel, he wouldn't have that effect on her. But that's apparently not the case. He still is.
Well, he didn't even know completely that she knew that it was him causing the effect on her initially, but he didn't know that it was like an actual link to her that was continuing and ongoing. And that was something Julia
discovers it.
She uses one of those pieces of glass and sees a magical tie between Elliot and his mom, kind of like a magical umbilical cord, I guess. And when they're close is causing her to go crazy. And when they go far enough, it's stretched thin enough, it's not an issue. But now she's kind of going crazy from it. So Penny steps back and is now watching on video like Julia was when she discovered that, as Julia goes and confronts Penny's mom, not only to tell her, that you need to do this to try to explain what's going on, but to actually show her magic as well, to help her understand. Of course, Penny's mom, she doesn't internally, like they don't say this, but internally she probably doesn't even believe that that's magic. She thinks it's part of her going crazy. So, she says that she can't be around Penny. She can't do it. It's not going to happen. Sorry. She can't lose her mind again. She'll completely shatter if she does. And we see Penny on the video feed just kind of watching, kind of heartbroken. And that's it. That's Penny and Julia's moment in the episode. That's what their adventure is going to be probably in the finale. While everybody else is trying to handle the fillery thing, they're probably going to be trying to handle the whole traveler baby thing to protect Julia. And I guess they're going to find a way to magically cut that umbilical cord.
I guess so.
Yeah. So that's it, right?
Yeah, that's everything.
Thank you, Ari, for listening. All that we have left is talk about what's coming up in the weeks ahead, I should say. So first off, we're recording this on Monday, March 30th, 2020. Today, Almost Paradise premiered on WGN. On Tuesday, March 31st, If Loving You Is Wrong premieres on OWN. On Wednesday, April 1st, Police Woman appears on Zune. I don't even know if that's a real channel, if this is an April Fool's joke. Because isn't Zune like Microsoft's podcast, or like portable music player?
It was, yeah.
So I have no idea what this is. I've never heard of Zune besides seeing it in listings. So for this exact show. On Thursday, April 2nd, Broke comes to CBS. Man with a Plan returns to CBS. How to Get Away with Murder returns on ABC. And Siren returns on Freeform. On Friday, April 3rd, Home Before Dark comes to Apple TV. Harley Quinn comes to DC Universe. Future Man returns to Hulu for its final season. Money Heist returns to Netflix. On Saturday, April 4th, Frankie Drake Mysteries comes to Ovation. On Sunday, April 5th, World on Fire miniseries comes to PBS. On Monday, April 7th, The Last OG returns on TBS. On Wednesday, April 8th, that can't be right. I think my dates are mixed up here. Okay, I guess The Last OG would be Monday, April 6th. The dates can't be right. So Wednesday, April 8th, Liar comes to Sundance. Thursday, April 9th, The Good Fight comes to CBS All Access. Friday, April 10th, Bruise Brothers comes to Netflix. Sunday, April 12th, Belgravia miniseries comes to Epix. The Walking Dead, The World Beyond is supposed to come to AMC, but I believe that was delayed. I haven't updated this list yet, so I need to update it, but I believe that was actually delayed because of the coronavirus. Insecure returns to HBO. Run comes to HBO. On Monday, April 13th, The Baker and the Beauty comes to ABC, and Paradise Lost comes to Spectrum. Like I said, I think The Walking Dead, The World Beyond was actually delayed on AMC because of the coronavirus, and some of these other dates might have as well. So make sure to check on that. You know, if you're gonna watch it, just check your listings. Make sure that that's the case, because these times are weird and everything's changing. So next week, we're going to be talking about season 3 of Lost. We've been working through that one episode a day, and we'll be doing our discussion on season 3. So that's it. So you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, as well as our site, The Total Screen. You can subscribe to the podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Cast, and the entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel. Thank you everybody for listening. Good night. If you would like to reach out to us and make a comment, send an email to contact@thetotalscreen.com. Stay tuned to The Total Screen for the very best in genre television.